Hey ho, EDLS 708 candidates. It is Dr. Palermo, and it is week 4. A little bit about the readings and the stuff for this week. I hesitate to call it a mini lecture. I'm talking at you, folks. Um, Fowler, Policy Studies, Chapter 6, is about the policy actors. And who are we talking about here? Well, I think personally in the state of North Carolina right now, Phil Berger and Tim Moore, uh, leaders of the Republican House and Senate legislatures in the state of North Carolina, wield an awful lot of power. And through the legislation that they have proposed and seem to have majorities to support, they're driving a lot of the educational as well as other policy in the state of North Carolina right now. I suppose our governor and other legislators are policy actors. But as you read Chapter 6, think specifically about policy actors in our state. And you're invited to post some information about policy actors so that we can and try to be original. Once somebody has already posted Wake Ed Partnership, please don't repeat that one, but dig a little bit. And Public Policy Forum, Cato Institute. If you don't know the Cato Institute, take a look at them. But they're actually national and federal. What are some policy actors? Who are some policy actors on the state level in North Carolina? Check out Public School Forum if you don't know them, and some other groups. Yeah, let's post those, and once several of them are posted, check out the links and do some digging so that we can have a good conversation about some of the policy actors who are helping to formulate policy in the state of North Carolina. Our reading in Essex in school law this week is Chapter 4, National Security and School Safety. Here's what I'll have to say about that. Check and update your school safety plan. If you had not previously covered for chemical spills at your place, make sure every contingency that you can think of has been covered. Plan for the worst and pray for the best is my catchphrase about this stuff. When I left Wake County, had extensive crisis management plans for individual schools for the district. Some of them, I have to say, border on a little crazy, and I'll tell you something about that in a minute. But make sure that you know your school evacuation, your district evacuation plans, that you practice fire drills, that you do and comply with all those things monthly, so that you can prepare again for the worst. I was a Boy Scout. Be prepared, whether you're a scout or not, for that. Prepare for the worst and drill, and then pray. Since we're a Christian organization, I can say that I prayed each day that I got up, that every day that I was principal, that it wouldn't be my school that day. I was at school on 9/11. Actually, I was at a district principals meeting, and we left and went back to our schools mid-morning when the first news of those attacks were making their way to the media mid-morning. I went back to Lufkin Road and pulled the plug. Went to the media center and made a unilateral decision that we weren't going to televise the news that day. But then it was almost noon, and we had a few 2.5 more hours of schooling to go. So I pulled the plug on TVs, and we tried to go on and have a normal day. I wanted to send the children home to be with their families in that instance. Otherwise, I scrupulously conducted the drills that we had to do for shooters and active shooters and fire drills and tornado drills so that we could prepare for the worst. Now, I also was principal of Lufkin Road in Apex, within the 10-mile evacuation zone for Sharon Harris Nuclear Power Plant in southern Wake County. So um, we had evacuation plans for in the event of an emergency. We had plans to put the children on buses and take them to schools in the northern region, farther away from Sharon Harris. I told my area superintendent at the time that that unlike that was a plan that would be very difficult to implement should there be an emergency evacuation. Having worked with a lot of parents in Cary and Apex, I knew that they would clog the roads around our schools with their SUVs as soon as the sirens went off, and that we'd never be able to evacuate children on buses. Anyway, that was my thought about that, and I kept it pretty private because I didn't want to buck the system at that time. But safety and security, do everything that you can. Remember that mission one is to keep the children safe, then try to educate them. I have enjoyed your responses to these ethical scenarios. I can't always follow the thread and tell who was the initial post and who's responding to whom, but I have learned a lot as you put in your 2 cents on these ethical issues, and I look forward to this week's scenario 4. Our HR experts, Tammy, Lowell, are shining in these things. I know you guys have had some experience with this stuff before. The rest of us are having fun and learning a lot, I think. Read on, write and respond. Thanks, folks. Have a great week.